He took on an army without his dragon.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. And that was he definitely leveled up after that.
He definitely had. But
Daemon's like level 12. Let's not get too carried away.
He's only level 12?
Dragonclaw, wing and scale. Come now, let's examine a tale of the greatest beast ever considered. Another episode of Big Flying Lizards.
So, I've been thinking, I didn't know necessarily what to do when I first watched the episode. I didn't know if I should talk about the several times that extended family members have attempted to, end me. I didn't know if I should talk about how many times that I've beat up on my little siblings with the justification that I'm doing it to better them, trying to make them better.
You had all kinds of ideas for the opening.
All kinds of ideas. But I know this is not going to really correlate for when the episode drops, but what the listeners may not know is Austin's birthday is this week. So happy birthday, Austin.
Happy birthday to me.
I figured there was a comment that was made by one of our most dedicated fans, you might say, that the podcast was lacking something in particular. So I figured it was only fair to get this for Austin. And on a more serious note, to really just tell, and I'm not trying to be corny here, but I genuinely appreciate you. Like you're probably my best friend. You're someone who's been in my life easily the longest outside of any family members, to the point where I'm getting all choked up over here.
Aww.
But I genuinely care for you, man, and I really want to, even though that this isn't a lot, I hope you like it, and I think the fans are going to want to see.
Right, so I'll describe it for the listeners, those that aren't on YouTube. But I'm okay. I appreciate you.
Hey, I appreciate
as well.
You.
This
I love
has been a blast already. Here we are,
episode 10.
Yeah, we've complete. Well, not yet. We have another 4 hours of recording ahead of us, but we are in the home stretch for the episode.
That we are.
It's been a blast.
It's been a blast.
Really enjoying myself, ourselves. Looking forward to
self.
continuing doing it with you. Also, like, all the same. Best friend.
I appreciate it, man. And again, I know this doesn't necessarily. You can keep opening while.
Well, no, because I need to describe it as I open it.
There's styrofoam in there, so.
Okay. So I'm gonna say this is it's a rectangular package.
Yes.
Red bow, white box. I'm estimating 10 inches by 3 inches by 3 inches.
It is not a butt plug.
Oh, jeez.
I'll just get that out of the way.
Okay, so it's not what I asked for. But maybe the next best thing, opening it up.
Find out on the Patreon if you got this year.
We got, so there's some styrofoam within it. Get that right next to the mic.
Oh, yeah, there's somebody
What
just
could it be?
shattering their phone.
Oh my goodness! It's a goblet. It's a dragon goblet?
It's a dragon goblet.
Oh my. Oh my goodness.
Fit for a king.
Or
queen.
Is this Last Crusade?
Choose wisely, Austin.
Yeah. I love it.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
Of course.
It has, so I guess I should actually describe it further. Certainly fit for a king. We have I'm going to say stainless steel goblet that is decorated with a metallic gold and red coat, and at its center is a piercing blue dragon eye. Fierce. Excellent. Okay, so I'm just going to take a second and I'll pour my tea from over. This might go very badly. Let's find out. Oh, a little spillage, but there we go.
That actually reminds me. I don't think
you didn't fill up.
I don't think I.
What are you gonna do?
I guess I'm gonna just have to go off script a little bit. Oh dear.
What? Bryce has brought out a a hollowed out horn to drink from. Here, I'll do the rest of this on the other side. Bryce is filling it up with a yellowish liquid. Lemonade, Kool-Aid, Powerade, one of those. I'm not noticing a smell, so we're all right. Here, a little bit more. Okay.
Though this is a war horn, I do declare that we make a toast for the season finale of season 1.
To a great season.
To a great season.
Of not just their show, but ours.
Exactly. We put a lot of work into this show, House of the Dragon.
Yeah. Thank you again. That's excellent.
Of course.
Should we get into it?
I think that's... Unless there's anything else you want to...
I'm good.
All right.
Welcome to Big Flying Lizards, a dragon movie and television podcast with myself, Austin Snyder. And across from me, one of my oldest and dearest friends, as previously stated. You know what? I'm just going to go all the way full send, my best friend, on top of all the rest.
Make me choke me up again.
Mr. Bryce Wilson.
Howdy.
How we doing, Bryce?
You know, the war horn is out. The episode is out. I've prepped myself for a 7-hour episode to really cover the true queen of the Seven Kingdoms.
It's the Black episode.
It's the Team Black episode.
Yeah, we got to be careful about that. Because being Team Green on my end, I got to be real careful, like, airing my grievances about the Blacks.
Team Black.
So I think I will be using the term Team Black.
Yes.
At least trying to. But the episode. House of the Dragon, Season 1, Episode 10, The Black Queen.
The Black Queen. It's a great one.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Anything that you want to particularly start off discussing?
It's another banger, and I like that this is like a sister episode to the last one, where
yes.
I made comment at the beginning of last episode that there was no Matt Smith, no Daemon, because no Emma Darcy, none of the major black players other than Rhaenys.
Yes.
But
major black
but this is the counterbalance to that.
Yes.
This is the sister episode where we're getting the Team Black reaction to King Viserys' passing. And I really like the strategy of that from the showrunners and the structure of that in the show. What do you think?
I genuinely do really like it. And even though I have a feeling they're not going to do this, I really hope that they split the season up for season 2, like giving Team Black their episode and then giving Team Green an episode. Even if it's like this is a Team Black dominated episode where we're going to get 90% of the episode with Team Black players and then get an episode where we're getting 90% of Team Green players. It just... Like I even if it's just like 2 or 3 episodes of that, well, it would have to be equal. So like, even if half the season is just that, I'd love it because
I'm not sure there's going to be room for that. I liked it this time. I'm not necessarily hoping for the same trick again, but I did like this sort of setting up as like the calm before the storm.
Yeah,
literal storm at the end of this one.
That was a storm.
But I mean, whatever it is, we'll see. We only get 8 episodes in the next season.
Yeah,
so I hope they're going to be making them count.
Do you think they're going to be making them like hour 15 episodes?
That'd be cool. As of this recording, I mean, you guys are listening to it. It's right around the corner. But as of this recording, I don't think they've announced episode lengths.
No, I think they've only announced the first 2 episode names at this point.
It'll be what it is.
It'll be what it is. But with us, this being the Team Black dominated episode, we start off at Dragonstone. And it specifically starts with the famous table map.
The painted table.
The painted table. It's a table that Aegon actually, if I understand correctly, Aegon had commissioned after they first landed in Westeros. They flew on their dragons and they made this table into a map of Westeros.
And you guys know how much we love a miniature model. A miniature map. And oh my God, when they light it up later in the episode, can we just talk about that right now?
I do want to point out that, like, I loved when it first dropped, people were clowning on Stannis in A Game of Thrones. Like, oh, was it not an LED mode for Stannis? Like,
he's too cheap. He didn't have the firewood.
He wasn't over there lighting it up. But yeah, when they lit it, like, it was one of those things that, like, oh man, like, this is
that's what it's about.
Those are the extra things that George was like, yes, we have the budget for it. We're doing it. We're making swords around the Iron Throne. We're making the table light up.
It's just another edge to the series as well. Mm-hmm. I think that they are putting the added budget to good use.
They really are. And we'll definitely get into having a conversation of House of the Dragon versus Game
I'm
of
counting
Thrones.
on it.
But today may not be that day.
But the episode starts with young Luke at this table, noticing Driftmark.
Yes.
And looking sad. He's a sad, sad boy.
Yeah, I mean, he loves... who doesn't love Corlys? Let's be real. Like, who in this world does not love Corlys? But on the flip side of that also, he doesn't want to have the responsibility of being a lord. Like, he's realizing that he could be a great lord in the span of just a couple days.
Yeah, and it's back to the little moment that he has with Corlys in episode 7.
Yeah,
where he's like, "You're gonna be the Lord of Tides one day. How do you feel about that?" And he's like, "Well, that means everybody's dead."
Yeah, and so I mean, we've already seen that he doesn't necessarily want to be the Lord, and so especially with the negative connotations associated with that. But Rhaenyra is trying to comfort him, and even though I am Team Black, when Rhaenyra's like, "I never wanted to be the heir to the," I'm like, "No, that's a lie. That is a lie. You wanted it."
Yeah. I mean, I think she doesn't want the downsides, the responsibilities of it.
But who wants the downsides of anything? Like, nobody is over there like, I really want these trials and tribulations added into my life. But for her to be like, I know just how you feel. And I don't think we ever hear Rhaenyra say, "I don't want it. I don't want to be heir."
No, and there's kind of a moment where she's like playing with, is that actually her destiny in this episode? Mm-hmm. And ultimately decides that it is. But I'm with you. Like, I don't think that she ever gets to the point of legitimately like, "Oh, you know what? My father was wrong. I am not the most special person in existence."
Yes. I go back and forth though. Again, I know we're jumping all over the place, but I feel like it's good to be staying on this line of thought. But you get a sense when Rhaenyra and Daemon were talking in front of the fireplace, that there is almost a sense of destiny that Rhaenyra is following. And because up to this point, I genuinely feel like Rhaenyra is like, "No, I want to be queen. Like, this is my right to be queen," rather than I'm being queen to protect the realm. Because I feel like there was a lot of that going on during this episode. And I don't know if it's just she matured really quickly after her father died, but you don't get that feeling from her
in the earlier episodes. You mean?
Exactly.
I think that's her like mini arc in this episode is her becoming a leader in, at least the way she sees it, in the style of her father. And
yes,
there are a lot of indicators to that I will be sure to point out as we get to them. But
yes,
that's going to come up a lot more in this episode.
I also think it's funny that Luke thinks his mother is perfect. like
he must not have seen episode 4.
I just thought it was funny. Like, I know that it's the sense of like he sees all the things that his mother does. He sees how great of a woman that Rhaenyra is. and he ties and well, let's be honest, Rhaenyra can rule. Like, she is a ruler. She has that big dragon energy, you might say.
Yeah, it's here. My big takeaway in this scene, this opening, which is nice enough, is that the warmth between Rhaenyra and her child. And what a great contrast that is to the scenes that we saw between Alicent and her children in the previous episode.
Yes. There is. I need to do a better job at sharing the memes that I see that are a House of Dragon, but it shows the shot of like Rhaenyra just holding Luke's head and just like having that warm moment, and then it has verses, and it's Alicent grabbing Aegon's face when he was like.
Now, to be fair, Rhaenyra's child is not Aegon, who's a monster,
but also
seemingly by a fundamental level.
Here's the thing, though, like. Rhaenyra, like Alicent's best behaved child, from the looks of it, is as well behaved as Rhaenyra's worst child. Like, I don't know. Again, I know I've made similarities, and I really try to keep the shows separate. But you do get the sense that, and again, like you might disagree because you're #Team Green over here. But you get the sense that Team Green has a lot of the family dynamics of the Lannisters in a Game of Thrones, while Team Black has a lot of the similarities between the Starks. And again, I know.
I see what you're getting at there. Also, you have Daemon on your team, who literally murdered his wife in cold blood.
Children-wise. But, like, Jace very much has a lot of Robb Stark that I've seen in him.
For sure.
He very much is a lot more mature for his age than he has any right to be. He's a very skilled at, like, he pushes himself, while Aegon has a lot of similarities to Joffrey, where he automatically with Aegon, we already know that he just knows that he's shit at everything. But he's content to be like that. Well, I feel like Joffrey had a little bit of he felt like he was good at everything. And
yeah, there was a little more delusion in Joffrey, which Joffrey's a great character.
Amazing.
I hate him.
Yes.
I hated him so much. I don't know if I've ever hated a TV character as much as I hated Joffrey.
Do you think you hated Joffrey more than I hate Otto?
Listen, I'm not inside your head, but I think I might have.
All right.
Like I was like standing up and clapping anytime anything bad happened to Joffrey. But what I was getting at is that, especially having done that already, I appreciate that they're already indicating more self-reflection in Aegon. Yes. Like in the last episode, he was aware of how much of a screw up he was.
Yes.
And I mean, that's last episode, but I like the show. I like what they're doing.
We're done talking about Team Green, Austin. We're talking about Team Black today.
All right, run it. What happens next?
So we get news from Sir Laurent that Rhaenys has arrived. And we already get just from how everybody reacts, everybody assumes that it's news about Corlys. Like, that's the vibe that everybody is getting.
But alas,
it's not about Corlys. She comes and immediately just drops the news that Viserys is dead. Like, no softening, no...
And Rhaenyra has an immediate physical reaction to this.
But she's not the only one who does, too. I feel like Daemon has the most emotional reaction that we've seen in the show so far. And I dare say he has... he goes mental in this episode.
A little bit.
I genuinely think that Aegon, I think, has gone a lot more mental at his father's death because he never got that confirmation from his brother like Daemon got that confirmation from his brother. But still, I feel like there's a lot of unresolved feelings that Daemon has with Viserys passing.
Yeah. It's affected them both in a profoundly negative way.
Yes. And specifically... like, Rhaenyra looks to be more in like a depressed shock all throughout this conversation, while you can just see like the pain just fluctuating between pain and anger on Daemon. And he immediately is like, the greens, they killed him. Treachery.
Yeah, and he assumes as much.
Yeah.
But the difference there is Daemon's pain is purely emotional.
Yes.
Rhaenyra is manifesting physical pain.
Yes.
From the jump.
Yes. She starts going into labor.
Premature labor. Very premature labor.
Yes.
Blood.
A lot of it.
Yeah.
I know we've joked about it, but they really just don't want giving birth to be romanticized in the show at all.
I appreciate it. It sounds terrible.
It does. It's just funny that they don't give it any glamour that any other show or movie gives.
Shout out. We already mentioned it. It'll passed by now, but my birthday is on Mother's Day. So
shout out to all the mothers.
To all the moms out there. I don't know how you got through that part. Hats off.
Hats. If we were wearing hats, we'd tip of the hat to them. But Rhaenys doesn't stop there. She tells him that Alicent has named Aegon. And I do find it interesting. Rhaenys is putting all the blame on Alicent. She doesn't ever say Otto, which, again, I know I'm an Otto hater, but I think we would even both agree that it was more Otto than Alicent.
I think it's just a functionality thing, because we established in the last episode that Alicent has risen to the top of her clan, so to speak.
Yes.
So I think that's the quickest way of putting that. They got a lot of territory to cover in that episode, much like we do in this episode.
Yeah, we've gotten 4 minutes of the actual screen time gone down.
We're doing great.
But you can just see the pain that that Rhaenyra's going through. One, that her father's dead. Two, the literal pain that she's going through with prematurely going into labor. And three, her best friend, who she thought that she had just got these feelings, moved past all these negative feelings, has betrayed her.
Yeah.
And she's feeling it's all of these are coming in all at once.
And there's something to how long Viserys continued to live in such a horrible state, where I'm sure that there's been what would have become a dull pressure eventually, but a constant feeling over her that he could die at any moment.
Yes.
And so I think for that to finally come to a head in this moment, combined with all the rest of it, my God, to go through something like that.
And again, I do find it ironic that it's Daemon who said it to begin with, that we all grieve differently, because I feel like we see several different ways that Daemon is grieving. He's going through all the steps.
Right.
Except for acceptance. Acceptance is not the step he enters in. Because let's be real, everybody, I think it's just as ridiculous to assume that Viserys died on his own as it is that Rhaenor Targaryen is the father. Rhaenor Valerian was the father of Jace and Luke. He was gonna die. He legitimately was missing half of his face.
Right. So but it's also one of those that's if they were gonna kill him, they could have done it any day.
Yeah. They could have sneezed on him and he would have died. Yeah. Literally anything could have killed him. And I also, Daemon just asked Rhaenys the question that everybody was asking themselves at the end of the last episode. Yeah. And I know we've already talked about it, so we won't go into too much detail, but
it's another note on it that she, so Daemon's you had them all there with your dragon and you didn't end this. And I wrote down the quote because it's ridiculous. Rhaenys responds, "A war is like to be fought over this treachery, to be sure, but that war is not mine to begin."
I will say this, and it's something that and again, I know it's ridiculous, but if we look at it more on like Rhaenys, I think is one of the most honorable people in the show.
Yeah.
And she knows that she cannot take an action. She's not the head of her house. Like, even though that I'm sure Corlys would not make any decision without Rhaenys' consent. I get that vibe from the relationship that we've seen between the two of them. But at the same time, Corlys is the head of the house. And so I don't think...
And he's not dead yet.
He's not... I'm not dead yet! But I don't think if it was different, if Corlys was like, hey, no, like, if shit goes down, we got to be ready to start swinging. Like, I think she would have done it.
It does make it a little better to me. Again, not a fan of how they ended the previous episode, but it does make it a little better for me that she's consistent on that throughout this episode, where she makes this comment, which to me feels a little more desperate on the part of the writers, but at least they're aware of what's going on. And then throughout the episode, she is very deliberate not to declare herself for Rhaenyra.
Yes.
Until she's conferred with her husband and they make a decision together.
I mean, is there anything necessarily, like, the biggest thing that I pick up towards the end of this scene is Daemon is furious and wants to go to war right away. But Rhaenyra is like, no, like, not like she's showing the restraint, but she keeps going. She's getting deeper into labor. So
right. And so what it comes to is like she's got to duck out and handle that situation. I think Daemon goes out to the beach to grieve, or the shore.
No, he doesn't do that quite yet, because Daemon, like, so that takes us into the next little bit.
Yeah.
Where, well, first of all, the Maester is like, how is this possible? What's going on here? This should not be happening. I'm like, no shit, Sherlock. Like, it shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
But it's happening. And Rhaenyra is clearly in pain. Again, we can't even comprehend what it's like to be going on that way. And Daemon is throwing a little war council.
Yeah. And I mean, with her so many councils, they kind of run together for me, but he's already like, he's moving. Like, he wants to go to war.
Yes.
Rhaenys goes and gets Jace and Luke.
Yes.
And brings them to their mother.
Yes.
And Rhaenyra, again, in enormous pain, it would seem,
yes.
Lets them know the situation, and then tells Jace, one, she confirms, you are my heir, which carries a lot of weight, because to me, that's like, she's worried she might be about to die.
Yeah.
And you know, whether that's the medical reality of it, that indicates like she feels like she is dying in this moment. And then the other thing she says is that nothing is to be done without her go ahead.
Yes. Which comes to be a big deal.
Yeah. Because Jace then goes over to this little war council that Daemon's put together.
Well, so she also does, like, again, I know that it's sort of assumed, but she does tell her sons that Viserys is dead.
Yeah.
And Luke is like, Viserys? Not Corlys?
What great news!
Like, thank God.
That old coot. I'm surprised it took this long.
It was alive when we were there. Didn't look like it to me. And it's also just so sad, because she's in the most pain that we've seen her be so far. And there's a little interaction where she's like, where is Daemon? And it's replied with, gone to madness, gone to plot his war. And it's very much showing like this is this is Daemon's war at this point. He Daemon is probably the only person in existence or non-existence that hates Otto more than I hate Otto.
Yeah, he has a couple reasons on top of yours.
Oh, for sure. But he genuinely wants this war. And but
right. So Jace comes in and he's like, what are you doing? Like, my mom says no war council until she's feeling better.
Daemon, mom said.
And Daemon's like, okay, whatever. And then he just like gives the go ahead to send out the ravens anyway. And then he's like, okay, boys, come with me. And they head outside.
For
a little lesson in what it means to be a lord.
However, before that, we do get some good news.
Huh?
Rhaenys announces that the sea snake's fever has broken.
Yes!
And he's on his way here. Yes! He's on his way to Dragonstone. And everyone's like, who's he declared for?
Listen, I know this is a rewatch for both of us, but did you ever doubt that Corlys was gonna make it through?
I'm not gonna lie. During episode, I really thought during episode 8, I'm like, oh, he's going. And it was more just because they were the episode was preparing for him to die.
You mean episode 7?
No, episode 8. Episode 8 was when the whole court thing was going on for.
Oh, yes. My bad.
No, it's all good. But they were like, who's going to be the heir? And he's like, no, I'm the heir. But yeah, I was genuinely thought he was going to die. But then once it sort of fell off, I was like, oh, I'm not really sure, because I think they did the whole switcheroo that it wasn't Corlys who ended up dying, but Viserys who ended up dying.
And that's what I'm saying. One, I felt from the jump, this character is too good. We need more of this guy. This is not going to be the spoilers for Game of Thrones. Corlys is not going to be the Ned Stark of this new series.
Viserys was.
Yeah, but that's the other thing is as soon as Viserys went, big surprise there. I was like, oh no, for sure he's making it through.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of patting myself on the back. The real headline is really excited that Corlys is going to be a continuing part of this series. Great character.
I do, but we do go outside, and there's 2 Kingsguard. Now, I wasn't able to catch who the second Kingsguard is, but we know that one of the Kingsguard is Sir Laurent.
You want me to get it?
I think you had it here on the. Is it Sir Stefan?
Yeah.
I don't think they ever say Sir Stefan in the actual episode, but
IMDb, bro.
IMDb, perfect. I need to learn the ways. But Daemon lets them in on they need to make a choice. They need to choose who they're going to be serving. And at 1424, we get our first dragon of the episode in Caraxes. And he comes in looking a little hungry.
Yeah, and I do love the design of Caraxes, and we've already established that the CGI in this show is top notch. I think this is probably the worst that any dragon has looked in the entire series.
I think though it's because it's a close up while it's light out. A lot of the shots,
broad daylight,
yeah. But because most of the shots when we're getting that close to a dragon have been at night or when it's in a darker situation
or wet,
yeah,
wet. I mean, you compare this to later in the episode, does wonders. But the emotion of the scene,
it's there.
It's still there, yeah.
And I also do again, Jace is just my boy. I'm a Jace stan over here. He was you could tell that he was still nervous and scared, but he was hiding his that level of fear pretty well.
Yeah.
And
that or he's acting against a tennis ball, but it works out.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
He is. I like him. I like him.
But before Daemon gives their offer, it's interesting because it's cutting back and forth between Rhaenyra and Daemon. And while we're having this cut, there's a cut going within the cut because Rhaenyra is getting flashes of Syrax popping in. Again,
what's that about?
I think, and again, I know we touched on it a little bit, and I think it's trying to show that there is a level of like, not psychological, like some sort of mental connection between a dragon and their rider. Feel like Syrax can feel the pain that Rhaenyra is in.
The first thing I thought of is that the dragon's waking up within her.
I'm sure that that's also happening quite well.
Because this, to me, what's going on with Rhaenyra is way more compelling than what Daemon and the boys are up to here.
Oh, for sure.
Where this is, I mean, you take out, like, this is just like crazy emotional and like pretty well, like tastefully rendered in this one episode for Rhaenyra's character. This is the third time that this very similar series of events has occurred.
Yes.
In this season, where this is the third instance of a birth going wrong and like presenting a life-threatening instance for the mother.
Yes.
And so one, it has the synchronicity with those two others, which Rhaenyra is very aware of, and I'm sure that is going through her mind, where she's like, I am not going to let this kill me. The other side of it is, like, at the beginning of the series, she like, when she goes and meets with her pregnant mother who's about to give birth and then die, Aemond, she's all like, that's not me. Like, yeah. I'm not going to be the like pampered mother just like pushing out heirs. And it seems like this moment is like, conscious or not, it seems to be like a physical reaction. It's like her very being, like her body rebelling against that idea as she recognizes that, like, fulfilling this pregnancy and, like, I guess, like, that role as a mother is incongruent with her needing to, like, reign.
Yeah. I like that answer better than mine. So
yeah, okay. I feel like I was a little all over the place on that, but it's powerful.
For sure. No, it definitely is. And I mean, we've already seen sort of a rebirth of Rhaenyra. And I think that this is almost like a second or even potentially a third rebirth that we're seeing, where it's, again, Game of Thrones has the line, kill the boy and let the man be born, when that Maester Aemon was saying to Jon. And I get the sense that this is her killing the princess and becoming the queen.
Yeah. Yeah, in a way.
So, again, powerful. And going back to the other one, again, I don't necessarily want to go too much into detail, other than I feel like this is a message that we're going to see quite often given, is Daemon saying, swear now or die a quick death, but if you betray us, you will die screaming.
You're gonna regret it.
Yeah. So he's giving everybody the three options. And the two Kingsguard, they swear.
I would have.
Yeah. Yeah. I would have too. So
Rhaenyra finishes.
I also do think it's a little sad. It's really sad, because the maids are like begging to help her and she's refusing to help them. She's refusing to let them help her. But all through this time, like, she's been asking and begging for Daemon. So how I'm seeing it is, like, if I can't get the one person that I want to help me's help, I'm not taking anybody's help.
Well, also bearing in mind the first troubling birth that we see in this season, like, she could be like, no, they're going to kill me.
Yeah.
Which is probably not practical.
No.
But just bearing it in mind, it kind of makes sense from that angle.
Yeah, she wants her protector. But if we eventually find out that tragically it's a stillbirth, that the baby didn't make it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it was
we see it. It is confirmed. And that's, if and when we get around to doing Game of Thrones, that's going to be my whole thing. It's like, they're not dead until you see them dead. And even then, sometimes. But yeah, we see very sad, very small, bloody fetus.
And that's when Daemon decides to show up, and he is coming in looking very sheepish, like knowing that he should have been there sooner. But again, Daemon has gotten all the defense that he's gonna get. The Daemon defense is over. There's not a lot of Daemon defense in this episode. But I'll just quote Daemon that we grieve all in our own ways, but he was grieving very selfishly up until this point. Unfortunately, it's just this is leading to more grieving that he's going to be going through.
Okay, so yeah, this is when he goes out to the beach.
Yes. He goes out to the beach and he sort of draws his sword and just collapses a little bit into the sand.
Dark sister.
Such a good name.
The next day, a funeral is held, much in the same style as, again, the King for a Day from
the Heir for a Day.
Geez, my bad. Where they burn the child.
Yes,
it's the Targaryen way, and nice bit of a set design on this one, I will say, or location scouting, all of that coming together.
Yes.
But then somebody arrives at the most dramatic possible time.
Sir Erryk. Not Arrax.
Who?
Sir Erryk.
Who?
Sir Erryk.
Who?
Mr. E.
That one.
And if you recall, Austin, I mentioned that he was carrying a package, a satchel, when he left King's Landing.
It's like you coming into the podcast today.
It's very much like me. To bring it all back around, I came in with a gift, a royal gift.
It crowned me king of this podcast.
I will serve as hand of the king of the podcast.
What's in the box, Bryce?
The crown. Viserys' crown.
Right, because it was Aegon's crown?
It was Aegon's crown that they crowned him with.
Yeah, Aegon got Aegon's crown. How about that one? Easy to remember.
And Rhaenyra got her father's crown.
Sure did.
And it very much was like, I was loving the music. I was loving everything about this scene. Like, it was a good scene in my...
Another really strong music episode. I took a few notes on it. The music in the scene at the beginning with Rhaenys and Daemon and Rhaenyra.
Yes.
It really brings it together. This is another great moment.
And another shot I absolutely loved. It was when it was the side shot of Erryk doing his swear, like his oath to Rhaenyra, and we just see this half of his face and then just...
I like your terminology there, doing his swear.
Doing his swear. He'd be doing the swear to the queen, my matey.
But yeah, he gets things kicked off. He delivers the crown. He pledges himself to Rhaenyra, and he does basically the Night's Watch thing.
Well, like I mentioned, the Kingsguard is actually modeled off of the Night's Watch. One of the first queens flew to the wall, and she was so impressed with the Night's Watch that she was like, we need this. We need our own of this.
What a bummer. But when he does that, everybody else follows suit.
Almost.
Except for one person.
Rhaenys.
Right. And this is the consistency thing that I was indicating before, where she's like, I'm gonna stay out of it until a minute. So I appreciated the consistency, at least.
But the thing is, I even get the feeling that I don't think she's ever going to bow to Rhaenyra.
That's an interesting thought. Well, if she does, it'll be a very big deal.
It will be a very big deal. But I'm this is my prediction. I don't think she's ever going to kneel to Rhaenyra, because if she's kneeling to Rhaenyra, I think it's again like it's an odd like situation she's in, because if she kneels to Rhaenyra, she admits that she should have been queen, and she's said that she's moved on past that. But as not kneeling to her,
yeah,
it's a whole quagmire.
Well, even just lending her support to the degree that she does in this episode is kind of a big deal, knowing the history of their relationship.
Yes.
It's like she's known Rhaenyra since Rhaenyra was a baby.
Yeah.
And then like watched her grow up, the arrogance and the disregard for duty and all of that. And so what again support she is lending her, like even just flying out here and informing them of what's going on, it's a pretty big step.
Yes.
And yeah, like it's pretty big of her to look at her niece, who she's known again as just like totally incapable and helpless at one point in time, and to be like, no, you're ready, you know?
Yeah. I also do find it significant that it was Daemon who crowned Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
Like,
especially after the earlier scene where he, like, she wasn't in the room, but he sort of disregarded her thing. And that's the thing with Daemon, is you could read it almost any way. Is it him being like, oh, this is a good moment. Like, if I get things started here with Sir Erryk, then everybody's gonna like really feel committed to Rhaenyra, and we're gonna have a better, like an easier time rallying people for war.
Yes.
Or is he legitimately feeling this moment like, no, you are who we're running. Like, I am submitting to you. I'm not sure which one it is. And there are sort of indications both ways in this very episode.
well, I'm going to shout out real quick. Somebody who's been in our comments section, Black Eyed Lily. They made a comment in one of our episodes talking about, Black Eyed Lily, this is for you.
Appreciate it.
But appreciate the comment below. Comment below whatever you want to comment. But Black Eyed Lily commented specifically that Daemon is one of George R.R. Martin's favorite characters that he's created, and he loves how complicated.
I could see that, because hasn't he said that Tyrion's his favorite in Thrones?
I'm pretty sure that's the case.
I could totally see that, him being the most fun to write. Daemon in this instance.
Because and I think that part of it is like he doesn't necessarily even know where Daemon is going to go next. Like well, because George has also said his writing style, like he treats his writing like a garden. Like he throws some seeds out there and he watches them grow and like just goes with it at that point, which writing Daemon as a character, that makes a lot of sense on like how chaotic and like you don't really know like what Daemon is about. Like Daemon, I don't think really knows what Daemon is about.
Yeah.
And
love the character so far. I'm not sure that that's how I would approach a high fantasy novel, but you know,
it worked.
That's what I'm saying. Like, who's published?
Who's published and has a shows? But we go back to the table, the painted table.
Yeah,
and that's when the LED lights.
This is when they turn on the lights. We're gonna make a show of it. But I say they take a little moment there where she like steps in, and there's like just the tiniest little beat of her like massive imposter syndrome, and then like, okay, here we go. What's going on, everybody?
First day on the job.
That's stressful.
Yeah. And I do think it's significant that I think it's Rhaena. That's Daemon's daughter.
Yeah.
It's Baela. I think it's Baela and Rhaena.
Yeah. You got it.
Is the cupbearer. So in a very similar position that she was in episode 1.
Again, she's coming into her own in this episode.
Yes.
In the fashion of her father.
Yes. And everybody is waiting on her. Be like, all right, is the shift going to start? How's this going to go?
Yeah.
And we first start out with getting a rundown of what their troop count is right now.
I appreciated this so much, too, and I feel like it's something that we, the Dragon Movie and Television Podcast, need to dig into for a little bit.
Well, we first get the boring parts.
Yeah, the foot soldiers, the knights.
Hey, we got 30 knights, 30 of them. We got 100 crossbowmen, and we got 300 men-at-arms.
Listen, that does not sound like a lot to me.
They don't. However, they make up for it in the sense that they're. I will say, before we get to the good stuff, Daemon and Rhaenyra are almost having a power struggle.
Totally.
This entire time. Like, Rhaenyra's like glaring borderline at Daemon this entire time. And I took note of it because they're talking about the different houses and like who's going to be loyal, who's going to take some convincing. And they're talking about Lord Grover, which I just think of Sesame Street, but that's a whole other thing. Super Grover with like his head.
That's who I'm picturing for this whole conversation, and I recommend you do too. But Rhaenyra is like, he's gonna take some convincing, and then Daemon is just like, I'm gonna go. Okay, I will go to him myself, which is basically him not like suggesting, he's telling, and there's a moment just in their eyes between them because the conversation kind of moves on from there, but she's like, and he's like, I'm doing it.
Well, there's a lot of instances that Daemon is acting more as a king than the king consort in these situations. And before we dive too much into it, I want to just pick your brain. Again, this is a situation that never will be, but I saw a short, like, weirdly enough, I get a lot of Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon content recommended for me. Yeah. Like, it's really weird. I don't know why. But
have you noticed have you been on the Team Black and Team Green subreddits?
Austin, this is a positivity zone.
Exactly. I'm just saying, you will never find a greater hive of scum and villainy. You all need to relax.
Austin, that's where our fan base is.
People graduate from those forums and they come to Big Flying Lizards where the real discussions are happening.
Where proper debate happens.
Yeah.
There's a war, Austin. They are fighting. They're the foot soldiers. Those are those 300 men at arms and men and women at arms. But someone made a short that I saw that I think has a lot of validity to it.
Tell me about it.
They were making the argument that Daemon, there would have been so much less...
Daemon defense?
This is Daemon defense for titles, not actions.
Okay.
But they make the argument that Daemon should have been named heir. If Daemon would have named heir... Here's, again, this might be a controversial belief. Out of the rulers that we've seen, I do think that Daemon actually would have been a good king. I don't think...
That's an interesting thing to check in on again, because we did have a conversation earlier in this miniseries.
Yes.
Talking about, of the three options, I think the three options at that point in time, Rhaenys, Daemon, or Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
Who would be your pick for who should be heir? And I don't remember who we came down on.
We'll have to go back to the film. But if we have those three, I still think I'm going with Rhaenys, though. But this video was making the argument for Daemon. And Daemon was loved by the people. Like, Daemon was very much viewed as a very popular figure. I don't think they would have turned against him. Yes, he's insane. He's not a good guy. But I do think he would have been a good king, and it would have actually... I don't think that the stepstones would have been nearly as much of a problem if they would have known that Daemon was sitting on the throne versus Viserys. But
you know what? I'm inclined to agree, but we'll never know.
We'll never know. And he has a way of commanding a room too. Like he doesn't.
That's the thing. It seems to come pretty natural to him.
Yes, he's a natural leader.
He has that charisma. Not to say, well, I'm giving him that edge over Alicent or Aegon or Rhaenyra.
Here's the thing. His number one stat, dexterity. He's got a 20 dexterity. 19 charisma right there. Con, another 19 right 19? There.
What level is Daemon?
He took on an army.
But that's in combo with his dragon. I feel like
he took on an army without his dragon.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. And that was he definitely leveled up after that.
He definitely had. But
Daemon's like level 12. Let's not get too carried away.
He's only level 12?
Yes, but also this is D&D, by the way.
Austin, I have a sinking feeling that a lot of people are going to know.
I think Daemon's level 12 or 13 at this point in time.
I'd give him at least 15.
But my argument there is that past that point in D&D, characters become superheroes, and Daemon's not quite there yet.
Well,
you put him in combination with his dragon, and he is a challenge rating. Whatever, well beyond fighting at level 13.
I will say this, Austin. You haven't quite gotten to level 15 with just a straight fighter yet.
Yeah. Well, why would I play a fighter, Bryce?
Austin, comment below. What's your favorite class?
Yeah, I'll just put my thumb on the scales. If you're not saying Bard or Warlock, you're wrong.
I understand. But Paladin defense all the way, baby! Divine Smite points are not spell slots. They're Divine Smite points.
Paladins are tight. Barbarians are cool. They're all fun in their own way.
They are. They are.
Fighters are boring.
It's great to get people into the game, Austin.
Sure.
Anyways.
Where were we?
The dragons.
Oh, yes!
I feel like that was a big enough. So Daemon breaks down how many dragons they actually... Well, first, he states that the Greens only have 3 dragons. Those 3 dragons are...
He states that they have 4. He doesn't list them, but he says 4.
Does he say 4?
He does. I wrote it all down. I promise.
Who's the 4th one?
So I had to do research because it's not mentioned and it's not shown in the show.
That's right. Oh, yes.
But I looked it up.
Because there's another child.
Yes. I have it all broken down right here. Okay. I've been anticipating this discussion.
So I'll give down the black team, the Team Black Dragons. They have Syrax, Caraxes, Melees, but Rhaenys had a little look like, this bitch. When he said that.
I noticed that too.
Vermax, Arrax, Tyrax, and then potentially they have...
Well, no, also Moon Dancer.
Yes, Moon Dancer.
That's Bela's dragon.
That's Bela's. And then...
Daemon also mentions that he has a score of incubating eggs, potential for more, and that... He also lists the unclaimed dragons.
Yes.
Which, by his reckoning, count for the blacks, but...
Sea Smoke.
Yeah.
Vermax.
No,
Vermithor. Is it Vermithor?
I think Vermithor.
Vermithor. Silverwing. And then there are 3 wild dragons. And I didn't list the wild dragons because we didn't get names for the wild dragons in this episode.
I looked them up if you want me to, rattle them.
I know one of them Sheep Eater and Cannibal.
Close. So Cannibal, yes. Great name for a dragon.
Great name.
Sheep Stealer.
Sheep Stealer.
Pretty whack name for a dragon if you ask me. But that does sound like a a wild dragon. Like, that sounds like the hick country dragon.
God damn it, sheep stealer!
Yeah.
Come over, steal my sheep! You won't even take the goddamn goats!
And the third one is Gray Ghost.
Those are solid names.
It sounds like a boat more than a dragon, but I can live with it.
Yeah.
So that's Daemon's accounting for the dragons on Team Black, even though 6 of those are unclaimed.
So really quick, I know that you said you were scoffing a little bit at Daemon, assuming that those are their dragons being unclaimed. But this is not Daemon defense for his action. This is Daemon defense for his words. The Greens have to stay in King's Landing right now. They can't venture off. They are ceding control and they can't move around. Team Black has the ability to be maneuvering and trying to get these wild dragons. So it's safer to assume that Team Black will end up with these dragons than Team Green, because they have, like, Team Green has to be in King's Landing. Team Black doesn't have to, like, they have to eventually get to King's Landing, but that's about it.
Yes. And you are right. You know, odds are those are going to fall to their side against the other. He's also literally counting his eggs before they hatch.
It's that big dragon energy.
Yeah, you just will it into existence.
Hey, that's half of politics right there.
Yeah, but you know what this podcast is? Not a political podcast.
It's not U.S. political politics. It is Westeros. This is politics, Austin.
That's why we say that. It's a danger. It's a risk. Don't let the conversation stray too far. Tell me about the Greens dragons.
So we have Vhagar.
Yeah.
That counts for like 6.
That's the thing, because Daemon is like, we have 13 to their 4. And I'm like, yeah, one of them's Vhagar, which we later see in this very episode is gonna be a problem if you put Vhagar up against a regular dragon.
Well, and we're going to talk about Vermithor a little bit. But Vermithor, I don't have too much of issue. Like, Vhagar's the biggest.
Yeah, and oldest.
And oldest. Vermithor, a little smaller.
Yeah, but that's unsecured, man.
Unsecured, but as of right now, it's unsecure.
Yeah.
But we have Vhagar, ridden by Aemond. We have Sunfire, ridden by Aegon. And then we have Dreamfire, ridden by Helena.
The other is not mentioned, but the lore, the wiki tells me that the 4th dragon he's surely referring to is Tessarion, who belongs to Daeron?
The youngest son of King Viserys.
And Lady Alicent.
I think it's safe to assume it's the youngest son of just King Viserys, but
Right.
But while this dragon talk is happening, a page shows up.
Mm-hmm.
Sir Erryk goes over and takes the word. And again, I know I don't necessarily want us to go into too much detail, but Daemon proposes their plan where they gather their armies at Harrenhal and then march on King's Landing. And as he put it, they will have King's Landing in... I don't have his verbiage, but essentially they're like, if we do this, we'll have it in a month. Which... Mm-hmm.
But before they can get to really discussing that...
Sir Erryk says that a lone galleon flies a banner of a 3-headed green dragon.
Oh! They're here!
They're here. And Daemon immediately, again, Daemon presuming himself as king, immediately gives orders to start, like, putting watches out and grabs Dark Sister.
Now, to be fair, I'm going to engage in a little Daemon defense here.
All right.
This does feel kind of like an emergency situation.
Yes, but it was a single galleon.
Fair. Okay. But I'm sure that this is also for Rhaenyra. Bro, like, let me do my thing.
It's like, this is not your day. This is my day. But we go back to our favorite spot at Dragonstone where we get amazing shots. And again, I know this comparison that I'm about to give actually does make a lot of sense because George was very much involved. But when we see this shot of Dragonstone, as particularly on the road, I was getting Elden Ring vibes, like strong Elden Ring vibes.
I know. I've picked up on that a little bit throughout the series. But it is that like near sunset sort of like warm tinted vibe.
Yeah, because it wasn't quite Dracula's castle, but at the same time, it certainly had that dark, just grimy and heavy feeling of that Elden Ring really gives. And we find Daemon in the same spot that he was in episode 2 of.
Yeah, it recalls that encounter, which we broke down in our coverage of episode 2 extensively. Where again it is Daemon and Otto on the same sides, or like on the same sides that they were in that previous episode.
Yes.
But you know who swapped? Rhaenyra.
Yes. And also same as the last time. Not Daemon. Otto brings the Grand Maester.
Again.
like he's a little more involved than he was last. It's a different Grand Maester, but the Grand Maester is more involved than the last Grand Maester was in this situation. But still, why did he bring the Grand Maester?
You gotta have a healer, Bryce. You should know this.
Sure. Why not?
Or it's part of a larger conspiracy that's been outlined throughout this series, but we don't need to dig into it any further.
No, not yet. And Otto comes with his Kingsguard, and he says that he has been ordered to give his message from Alicent only to Rhaenyra. So at 27:18, Syrax flies overhead. Again, very similar to episode 2 and lands almost in the same spot as episode 2.
Yeah, but this time Syrax is blocking their retreat rather than serving as backup.
Yeah. And
Otto starts to list his demands.
Well, yeah.
Vocab word of the day is obeisance.
That's a good one.
Yeah, which seems to mean the exact same thing as obedience, but he says obeisance, and it is a real word meaning acknowledgement of another's superiority or importance. He demands that they submit to Aegon.
Yep.
And recognize him as king, and then offers what I'm just going to go out and say are some pretty generous terms.
I will say this. As far compared to what Otto was saying for them to do in the last episode versus what is being offered, I'd say generous terms because they offer Dragonstone to go to Rhaenyra.
Plus Driftmark.
Well, here's the significance though. She says that it will be given, like she can keep Dragonstone, which typically Dragonstone is given, if I understand it correctly, to the heir. Like that's like their seat.
Well, it's of great significance to the Targaryen house.
Yes. And which means Dragonstone will go to Jace once Rhaenyra dies.
But it also kind of makes sense that Otto would be like, well, we can do that because he's not a Targaryen.
No. Hightower's going to become the new...
the new pop and play.
No, not Hightower. Old Town. Old Town's going to become the new...
Right.
But then they will legitimize... The biggest part that I had troubles with is like, we will legitimize Luke into getting Driftmark. And be like, he was legitimized. That was the whole point of episode 8.
Yes. He, yes. But he's also just saying like, that's still gonna go through.
I understand. Again, verbiage. It's all about the verbiage. And then he generously offers that that Daemon's sons can be the squire to the king and his cupbearer, and will pardon any knight and lord that had sworn fealty to Rhaenyra.
See, I feel like that's a pretty fair offer. And in the interest of fairness, where you have called out Otto for perpetuating or perhaps bringing about this conflict to be,
yes,
this feels like a pretty cushy exit for Rhaenyra and company if they chose to take it. I get why they don't, but like, blame where it's due.
This wasn't Otto, though. This was Alicent.
Okay.
Because Otto was like, we got to kill him. Like, straight up. He was, in the last episode, like, they were straight up saying, we've got to kill her. Like, there's no way we make it out of this. We got to kill her. Alicent's the one who demanded, like, no, we need to send terms. Like, terms need to be sent. Like, we have to give them this chance. Again, I'm grateful that Otto didn't just botch the deal. He may have tried botching the deal a little bit with his verbiage, but also, yes, credit where credit is due.
I'm not trying to talk up Otto in this instance. It's just that we have had discussions about how there are ways they could have dissolved this conflict before it became all-out war, and this is, to me, the first time where Rhaenyra is offered a very viable means to do that.
Yes.
And even what we've talked about before, where we're like, well, Otto and the Hightowers could have just lended their support to Rhaenyra. Like, if everybody had gotten in a room and worked out a deal, then they could have saved a lot of bloodshed. This is even more explicit than that. This is like, terms have been outlined, and maybe she could have called the whole thing off.
And I do agree. And the fact of the matter is, like, this is on Rhaenyra. But the thing is, Rhaenyra does consider these terms. Like, she doesn't, it's Daemon who's like,
yeah. And I that's the credit to Rhaenyra, because Daemon's response, I wrote down,
I would rather feed my sons to the dragons than have them carry shields and cups for your drunken usurper cunt of a king.
Oh! Great line.
Just, he has those bangers. I think he multi-classed as a bard a little bit.
2 levels.
2 levels. But yeah, like, I think at the end of the day, everyone knew it wasn't Rhaenyra that they had to convince. It was Daemon who was going to be the problem. Daemon's...
Yeah. And it seems like Rhaenyra isn't convinced until Otto presents the torn page.
Yes.
Surely given to him by Alicent, that Rhaenyra tore out of the book in the very first episode, in the first 10 minutes of the season. So
yes.
Significance to us as the audience, and clear significance to her as a character. I did see a bit of trivia that apparently that page, like the image, depicts like this overtly rebellious woman who like went to war and had her like daughter succeed her and all of this shit that could have encouraged Rhaenyra in another direction if it didn't have the sentimental, but
no, for sure.
I don't know if we're meant to pick up on all that as an audience.
But here's the part that I just am really struggling with. I don't know. I really do think it would have been different if Viserys actually had talked with Rhaenyra. If he had actually decided to name Aegon as heir, I don't think things would have spiraled to the point that they're at right now. But the fact of the matter is there is this complication because Alicent is convinced that Viserys named Aegon.
They both think they have God on their side, essentially.
Here's the thing, though. The only person who's taking that message from Viserys that Aegon was named heir serious is Alicent. Nobody else. Everybody else is like, right, You were alone in the room together right before he died.
Yeah, Otto doesn't even mention it. Like in this scene where he comes up, he doesn't even declare it. Like, because when they do the coronation of Aegon at the end of episode 9, he's like, in his great wisdom, the king decided on his death. He just skips that whole section here and just goes into, we all know what this is. Here are the terms. Take them or leave them.
Exactly. So, and again, I agree. This is Rhaenyra's off ramp, but at the same time, like, it legitimately looks like the High Towers are stealing the Targaryen birthright, because I don't even think at this point they view them as Targaryens. They view them as High Towers.
And also, to Rhaenyra's credit, offering a little olive branch here, I think that she, just as likely as not, would have agreed to the terms if not for a certain turn of events at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
Which is very unfair. So, on that level, I kind of get it.
Yeah. It's we need to get into that. We're
is gonna be good. But Rhaenyra in this scene agrees that she will give them her answer the next day, on the morrow, as it were.
Yes.
Up next, we go to the painted table. Another meeting.
So one last thing that I and again, I think it's just going to be one of the tragedies of the show that we're going to see is we see as the tensions get higher, we see Sir Erryk and Sir Arrax are facing off with each other, and they're sort of just saying, "Hey, we've chosen our sides," and they were ready to go fight each other during that moment. Like,
yeah,
it was
compelling sub-conflict.
Yes.
Two brothers.
On
two sides of a great war.
And there was also a line that Otto gave that it's just too good. I have to say it.
Hit me with it.
The succession
You have an Otto impression?
Oh, the succession changed the day your father sired his son. I only regret that you and he were the last to see the truth of it.
That's pretty good.
They say hate and love are the opposite sides of the same coin. But I think
good quote too. I was just caught up in your rendition.
Here's the thing. As I keep saying, I love Rhaenys Ifan. Rhys Ifan. Hyphens. Timothy Charlemagne. Rhys hyphens. Like, I love him as a character. He has done such a great job as Otto. And it's the same idea. I think you would say the same with the actor of Joffrey. Like, that actor just did such an amazing job.
Totally.
As Joffrey, making him so and I think, and again, I don't know if he got the same text message as Joffrey did, but George R.R. Martin sent him a text saying, "Hey, you did an amazing job. Congratulations. Everybody hates you."
Yeah, you notice how that guy here. Let me look up his name because he does deserve credit, but he retired from acting after the show.
He's back. He's doing
what? What's he doing?
He looks as British as you could possibly look for this next film that he's doing.
Okay, his name is Jack Gleeson.
Jack Gleeson.
Recent photos of him have a mustache, which does make him look a little different than he did as one particularly hateable character. Okay, I'm pulling up his IMDb to see what's on the way here. Upcoming, One Element. There is a TV series called Safe Harbor that is about hackers. And
funny how that happens.
Tech billionaires and stuff.
So he's going from one monster to being another monster.
Yeah. Anyway, wishing him all the best.
Yeah. Go check out his work. He deserves it.
You remember him in Batman Begins?
He was a little kid in that movie.
I know. It's crazy.
Nobody says you're real.
But yeah, Rhys has done an amazing job in this season. And I didn't want to bring this up earlier, but I'm going to risk it now. Honestly, when he came, like, now I'm so glad he's back in the show. Like, I'm glad that, like Corlys, I'm really excited to see where his character goes and the moves that he's going to be making.
Like, I'm just going to, like, I think we both said this on the show, but I don't think he's making it out of the show. Like,
no way.
Like,
no.
Like, I don't think he's making it. And again, don't let us know. We haven't read the books. No, this is a spoiler-free zone. But I don't think he makes it out. But I want him to go out so much better than because...
Spoilers.
Spoiler alert. Littlefinger goes out in like the most disappointing way.
He does.
Like, and the same goes for Lars. Not Lars. Larys. I don't want Larys to go out in a disappointing way. I want Larys to have a death way more befitting, again, spoiler alert, than Varys had.
It's just... Season 8 was a real bummer. They were dropping balls left and right.
Yeah, it's that they did. And
I know that's like a basic take at this point. And there are things I like about season 8 that other people seem bothered by, but
it's not
still kind of a train wreck.
It's not as bad as everybody makes it out to be, but the problem was the expectation was so high that they didn't even come close to the expectation, so they got the hate.
That's another podcast.
That's another part. But they go back to the map room.
The painted table, and they have another council meeting.
And Daemon is all for war.
Yeah, and he's just on the dragon, like, we have the dragons. Like, we have a clear advantage here. Let's press it. And on some level, I'm with him. I'm like, yeah, just like rip the Band-Aid off, get it over with, solve the conflict in a month. But I more side with Rhaenyra in that she recognizes that dragons are the nuclear option, and she would prefer to not rule over a kingdom of ash and bone.
When dragons fly to war, everything burns.
Again, taking the wisdom of her father.
Yeah. Well,
into her first days as quote-unquote queen.
Yes. But this is just frustrating Daemon more and more, and he's openly starting to question her in front of everybody.
So she asks for the room.
She asks for the room.
Because, this is... And there's a nice progression to it. Like, there's some tension earlier in the episode with them in separate rooms. And then there's a little eye contact, a little like, what are you doing here? In the earlier council, they're basically contradicting each other on the bridge. And then in here, it's taken to a step further to where they're like, okay, we need to talk.
And I also want to point out, Rhaenys is loving all of this. Like,
she is reveling in being a fencer, fly on the wall.
Like the looks of amusement that she has, and I also do think that she loves the fact that Rhaenyra is going to try and put Daemon in his place. Like, one, I think she's loving it because she was the first person to tell Rhaenyra, like, hey, the men of the kingdom would see it burn before they see a woman sit the Iron Throne. And then also, like, I still think she has sinking suspicion that Rhaenyra killed her son.
Yeah.
And to top that all off, I'm sure she's like trying to imagine what it would be like to like try and wrangle Corlys. Like, if she was in that spot, because I imagine, like, I'm sure Corlys is a lot more respectful than Daemon is, but I also get the sense that if the day Corlys would have been named King Consort, he like Daemon.
I mean, they do level up their relationship in this very episode.
Yes.
But I'm just imagining like both of them 25 years younger, trying to figure out that situation.
Yes. Again, I feel like Rhaenys would put Corlys, like, say, hey, you're the king consort, not the king. But there would still be that dynamic of, like...
Yeah. Regardless, she's still the coolest aunt.
She is.
That's her whole energy. She has dragon energy.
She has the second most dragon energy.
As established. Maybe that's another video idea. Top House of the Dragon characters ranked by dragon energy.
And then we have to give the 3 lowest dragon energy.
So the room gets cleared,
yes,
and they have a heated conversation by the fireplace.
Yes. Yes.
Pun not intended, but accepted.
So here's my question, because Rhaenyra is very much focused on the safety of the realm, and she brings up the Song of Ice and Fire. I know it's said in the scene that she doesn't think Daemon knows what the Song of Ice and Fire is, but I don't necessarily get that vibe. Like, the vibe I was getting from that Matt Smith was like going off of was more that he knew what it was, but he's like, why are you talking about this right now? Like,
no, and maybe this is just me choosing the story I find more compelling, but I think to me, the scene reads as him realizing that his brother never fully trusted him.
Okay.
Because that is Viserys' greatest secret. But we've established that was a great motivator, especially early in the season, for Daemon to, like, please his brother. Yes. and like, connect with him. And so to have this revelation that he never passed on this critical piece of lore, which is big, and that's what I was seeing in his performance,
and that does make more sense. But like the way he was even acting, it's just, to me, I was seeing it as he's like, why are you concerned about this right now? This is the big issue that we're facing. Why are you But again, that what you're saying does make sense, and I'm willing to give that the likelihood of what it is, but just how he was reacting as well to Rhaenyra. He wasn't like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, and that's certainly part of it too. I mean, maybe that feeds into the reason that Viserys never felt that he could tell Daemon about that. One, because it does seem like it's this big mythical secret that only the like king lineage gets to hear about.
Yeah.
But also, like, Daemon was probably like mocked Viserys for his superstitions, as well, it were.
After, because Daemon chokes Rhaenyra. Like, there's some domestic.
Yeah, he's going Darth Vader here.
He's going Darth Vader, and he says, "My brother was a slave to his omens and portents." Yes. And then he says the classic line, dreams didn't make us kings, dragons did.
Facts.
Which it is facts right there. So again, I could see it going both ways, where he knew about, he may have not been told the whole thing, but it could have been that Viserys tried talking to Daemon, and Daemon's like, I don't care about this prophecy. Like, I care about the now. I care about what's going on in front of me. But,
sure. And again, there is some very real urgency to what is going on in their situation too. So he has a point. Not justified in choking your wife, dude.
No Daemon defense on that front.
You're gonna need some consent on that one first.
Very much so.
I did appreciate the fire lighting of this scene, though. It's a trick they've pulled out in a couple instances for especially intense scenes. I think it looks great here, and it's like they kind of have like the hard split lighting on Daemon, which just makes sense for him being such a complicated character.
Complicated.
Mm-hmm. Good scene. He does ultimately release her.
Yes.
And I think it's kind of up to the viewer to decide what's going on in his head there. Is it the revelation that maybe his brother never trusted him? Is it him being shocked at his own actions? Is it him agreeing that Rhaenyra, like, has a point.
We all grieve in different ways.
Me, listen, when I...
Babe. But guess who's back? Back again.
Next scene.
Corlys is back! Tell a friend! But,
booyah! He's made it through.
He's made it through. He's made it to Dragonstone. And...
he wakes with... Rhaenys at his bedside.
He does. And he wakes Rhaenys up trying to be all cute. And she immediately, and not saying that she's not justified, because she is very much justified to be as angry as she is, but she is pissed at him when she wakes up.
And she says that he abandoned them.
He did abandon them.
Yeah, well, because he admits to it.
Yeah.
And he's like, this was me coping.
He's like, babe, I had to go on the boat.
I just needed some me time.
For 7 years. And that really was what it was, though. He tried saying, like, I just lost my children. But then Rhaenys is like, we just lost our children. We were both going through this. And I think he admits he was acting selfish. And they come to that conclusion.
Yeah. And then he flat out says, which this is the like completion of their like couple arc in this season, that he says that their pursuit of the Iron Throne is at an end, and he's like, we should retire, like let's enjoy what family we still have. And
I do want to point out, though, before that is said, that Rhaenys tells her that Vaemond is dead.
Yeah, and that's a factor in it.
Yes, and that Daemon is the one who killed
right.
Vaemond.
But that's part of how he comes to the conclusion, is that he recognizes the same impulses in him that have led him astray, led to his own brother's end.
Yes. And he realizes now, like significantly too late, that tying himself to this toxic family has sort of been very detrimental.
To say the least.
To say the least. And he starts like blaming Rhaenyra, saying that she's toxic, that she poisons everything that she touches. And Rhaenys, who's been watching Rhaenyra since she's been named queen's like saying, no, like Rhaenyra is actually the only one who's keeping a level head right now, where everyone wants to go to war. Everyone wants blood. She's the only one who's pursuing peace.
Which, again, as I established earlier, is pretty big for this person who's known Rhaenyra her entire life to admit about her.
Yes. Which takes us back to the war count. Is there anything else that you want to cover?
I do want to say that is a big triumph of this episode, and I'd love to see them sort of reconcile. We've talked about how we like their dynamic a lot, but have acknowledged some overt toxicity within it.
Yes.
Corlys operating with some old-fashioned ideals. So love to see them get on the same page here. And I do think that Steve Toussaint and Eve Best, the actors, have real chemistry.
Oh, they do.
Like off the chart, like to the point that I would almost like to see like them in a different context, like a modern set romance, or like maybe they're like an older married couple.
Yeah.
They pair them up in a lot of the interviews on the internet, and they're just great. I recommend it.
They probably have the best on-screen chemistry out of anybody in the show.
Anybody so far? Any other notable instances?
I liked the chemistry between Millie Alcock and Matt Smith, but it was just the age difference.
Yeah, that's almost like less chemistry. Tone it down.
Exactly. But that's like the only one that's really coming even remotely close.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. But my whole point is, like, I'm glad that they've reached this point this early in the series, and I'm just ready to watch them be the ultimate power couple through the rest of House of the Dragon.
She's got the dragons, he's got the ships.
The perfect combo.
But we go back to the painted table room, and Corlys comes in with his cane.
I mean, he's walking with a limp, but he's looking good.
He's getting. I didn't think it was even possible for him to get more nautical with that. But that's what he's been missing. That
like a peg leg.
And very noticeably, Corlys calls Rhaenyra princess when she comes in. Does not call her your grace, or
he's preserving the surprise.
He's preserving the surprise. And I also want to point out everybody in the room who was sitting and everybody who was standing when Corlys and Rhaenys came in, they stood at attention and like gave them respect when they came in. Again, just showing sort of this level of respect and admiration that both of them have accumulated, especially on Team Black.
The short of this, though, is that Corlys then does pledge his house to Rhaenyra. And it is a big triumphant moment, sort of a balancing of the two sides.
Yes. I do want to point out something and again, we've talked about this with Corlys. He's keeping it 100 with her this entire time. He is not like he's not sucking up. He never sucked up to Viserys. He's never going to suck up to her. Like, he's saying, hey, this doesn't look good. Like, this. Like,
but they have a plan.
They have a plan.
I will draw some attention when Corlys is declaring this, that he's like, I'm with you, my queen, or whatever. Rhaenyra takes a little moment to look over and recognize that this is Rhaenys doing.
Yes.
So
yes,
Rhaenys really coming through on that end, even if she was a bit of a fence sitter there.
And what Corlys proceeds to announce, I think, is very significant, because he announced that they've secured the steps. Not only have they secured the stepstones, they've left a garrison there, which they always are like, why didn't we leave a garrison? And then they said that they're going to start blocking off and having a blockade over King's Landing. So shipments are not going to be able to make it to
King's Landing.
King's Landing.
They're an embargo. Sorts.
This is significant, though. And again, I'm not saying that I've read anything ahead, but it's just from what I picked up in the show. The Valyrians have the biggest fleet. The next biggest fleet is the Lannisters. So this is sort of setting up.
Yeah. Do you think we're going to get some sea battles?
I want us to have some sea battles so bad.
Sea battles plus dragons.
Sea battles with dragons.
Then
Lannisters.
Again, I kind of feel like dragon neutralizes ships. We saw a fair bit of that in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, but the thing is, both sides have dragons.
Fair.
If the dragons go, it's like paper beats rock, dragon beats ship, dragon beats dragon, though, protect ship.
Indeed.
But
it's good. I'm excited for season 2.
I am really excited as well. And this whole thing just sort of ends with them saying, okay, we need to know where the Starks are. We need to know where the Eyrie is, and we need to know where the Stormlands, the Baratheons are at.
Yeah, because Rhaenyra is like, good plan. We need more land units.
Yes.
If we're going to make this blockade, this siege work.
And that's when her boys become men. And Jace notably volunteers himself and Luke to go speak, because it's better to send an envoy than to send a message.
You notice these two looking like Harley Quinn henchmen in this episode? With the red and black split down the middle.
They're taking their color seriously. They're Team Black.
Yeah, it's a good fit, just funny.
It is.
And they actually switch into some pretty styling fits, I may say, before they're about to head out, because that's what they agree to, send those, carry those messages to the houses that they want to contact personally, because dragons fly faster than crows. Dragons fly faster than crows. This is an important fact.
Big fact. And so Jace is being sent to the Eyrie to talk to the...
Oh, wait, do they send ravens? Ravens are different than crows. My bad.
They send ravens. Oh, they send a raven. Yeah. They send Jace to go speak to the Arryns at the Vale. And then they also, after that, he's going to go up to Winterfell to talk with the Starks. And then Luke is being sent to Storm's End to talk to Borris Baratheon. Borris. He is a Borris, too.
He's such a Borris.
And it's just this last scene where you're seeing, again, the tenderness that she has for Luke in this moment. She's like, it's just a fly over there. It's gonna,
you can do it, son.
It's gonna be there and back again.
But then she low-key disarms them by making them swear on the Star of the Seven that they will act as messengers, not warriors.
Yes.
And yeah, that might have some consequences, but it is some indication further that Rhaenyra is looking to reign in the style of her father,
yes,
where he was a man of visions and signs and prophecy, and by established Targaryen standards, a religious man.
Yes.
That's relative, but yeah.
And with that, at 45:58, we see 3 dragons take off. We see Malice fly, take off. We see Vermax, and then we see Arrax.
Right. We totally skipped over because Rhaenys agrees to personally take part in this like blockade plan, which is a big deal because that is her not just like following along with her house, but like herself volunteering to engage with this conflict on the side of Team Black.
Correct. And Daemon didn't tell her to do that. And almost as a foreshadowing, all 3 dragons fly towards the storm.
Yeah. And the like classic Daenerys theme from the original series plays. Wonderful moment.
We come to a moment that's, again, very Elden Ring-like, where Daemon is walking down some stairs, he has a torch, and he's singing in High Valyrian. Again, we just had him do domestic abuse like 5 minutes ago, but when he's singing, I low-key love it. It's beautiful in High Valyrian. Matt Smith is actually, if it is Matt Smith, is actually a good singer in this spot.
I love, in a medieval fantasy context, like a nice bit of diegetic music, all about it. It's a really nice, kind of eerie tone setter in the scene too. I love this scene.
It's a short scene. We really don't know where he is. It appears to be like an underground, again, like I said, Elden Ring. It looks like an Elden Ring dungeon that you're going underground, but also very Mesopotamia architecture like. And at 47:48, we see a massive dragon. It is a huge dragon. It's not as big as Vhagar, but still huge.
Vermithor.
And you can just tell that it's an old dragon. Its face is covered in scars.
Save it. So the context of the scene, Daemon is singing, the dragon seems angry. It breathes fire. Mm-hmm. But as Daemon continues, it seems to kind of settle down. They make eye contact, and that's the end of the scene.
I loved it because it was like zooming in on Vermithor's eyes, and it was seeing Daemon, and then it almost switched where it was zooming in on.
Yeah, they're just letting us know how much dragon energy Daemon has.
They connect.
Now, I a little bit wish that they had ended the episode with this scene. I do think the way they do it is equally valid and like shocking and exciting.
If this was if they had switched and Team Black had episode 9, I think that's how they would have ended.
Or can you imagine if this scene had been the teaser for season 2?
That's some Rings of Power shit right there.
I know, but I'm just assuming they're actually going to deliver. Oh my God, that bullshit. I'm never going to get over it. Never. I might not even watch the next season.
We're going to have to.
That's what I'm saying. They're going to put a bunch of dragons and I'm going to have to watch it. Or they're going to put a bunch of dragons in the trailer and then, like, they're not even going to be in the show.
They put the dragons in House of the Dragon. Like, not even the same show.
They're going to have, just mark my words, the trailer for Rings of Power Season 2 is going to end with Smaug.
Like, what's he doing here?
Like, it's me, Smaug. Tune in Saturdays.
I am fire. I am presenting on Amazon every Saturday at 7 p.m. Central. But
masterful scene. We move on to Jace arriving at where are the Baratheons from? What's it called?
Storm's End.
Oh, aptly named.
I love Storm's End. Like, I've always been like, again, I know that the Baratheons are very much they're viewed as a toxic, but I've been a sucker for like the idea of like a young Robert Baratheon. I can't wait to see Robert's rebellion because he was such a badass fighter. He was just this.
Yeah,
it's so cool. Storm's End did not disappoint, and especially like the idea of like in the books right now, there's about to be a siege on Storm's End, and I'm just like, how is this possible? With how
the most miserable siege of all time.
I don't know how you do it. Like
2 raincoats per man.
Everyone has a poncho.
So Storm's End is made reference to a lot in Game of Thrones.
Yes.
But is this the first that we've ever seen it?
This is the first time we've ever seen Storm's. Well, we saw Storm's End when Rhaenyra went there to select her husband. We just didn't see the outside of it.
Yeah.
But this is the first time we see the outside of it. And I love almost how simple it is. Like, it's more that it's just such an architectural. Well, and the reason that it's called Storm's End, again, I know we're running, but Storm's End was built initially, and they believed that the gods were trying to punish them because each time they tried to build it, the storm would destroy it, because this particular area just is really bad storms all the time. So when they finally built this castle, it's like storm-proof. Like it was not able to be destroyed by any of the weather, so they call it Storm's End. And again, I know I'm doing a poor
pretty metal though.
They're battling the elements.
Just a middle finger to God on that one. But not Jace. Luke.
Yes.
But Luke arrives and notices that he's actually not the first dragon.
Because at 49:20, we see Vhagar just
looking huge.
And just like, I don't think Vhagar's looked bigger than she did just right there, where she's like significantly taller than the walls that are surrounding it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, man, like this. And to Luke's credit, he still goes up and he's like, I'm here to see Lord Borris.
Yeah. But this is him going in, like, knowing that Aemond's gonna be about.
Yes. And we're gonna do the fit pick still, but I love Aemond's. Like
his getup, yeah. He feels like a video game character, but in a good way.
He looks like a pirate. Like, he legitimately looks like
is that an eye patch?
No, like, he's wearing like the black leathers that he's over. Like, he looks like he's the captain of the Black Pearl over here.
Or,
just like
maybe the Dread Pirate Roberts.
Yes. He like reminds me of I've been playing Total War Warhammer 3 for all of those that are out there, but he very much looks like a character that could be one of the legendary leaders of that. But we get that Borris is really loving the fact that the Targaryens can't decide who's going to be king. He's like, the Targaryens don't know who rule them.
Yeah, and this guy seems pretty unhappy, Mr. Borris. Here, he feels like a type of guy who has to live in a castle where the sun never comes out.
Yeah. I also just think it's so fitting that the ancestor of Robert Baratheon can't read. Like, like
Officer Bar Brady over here. Because Luke comes in, he's like, I have a message. And then he's like, another one? What do you have to offer? And then he hands off like a little mini scroll, which one day I hope that somebody hands me a little mini scroll like that to announce something other than a wedding.
To announce that you have to fulfill a promise that you made.
Fair, because he's insulted. Again, he calls over the maester. He's like, what's it say? It whispers in his ear, and then he's like, you mean to tell me that you offer nothing?
Well, the funny thing is, like, he's first like, you over here making it so I don't obey my word, but then you don't offer anything. And he's like, yes, that's why they were saying,
you're making me do it.
You're not sweetening the deal that I already made.
Yeah, it's all over pretty quick, and Luke's like, I did what I came here to do, okay?
He's like, peace.
But Aemond isn't going to let him go so easy.
No. He draws a blade, and he's like, I want you to take out your eye. And then he reveals the sapphire that's in his eye, which looks so good.
It looks so good.
He's like that straight supervillain. He's a supervillain at this point. Like,
well, he's gonna be a supervillain in about 5 minutes.
Okay, aesthetically, he's a supervillain at this point.
It looks so good. I wonder why he wears the eye patch, to be honest.
I'm sure that it's just it draws too much attention when he's
yeah, it's like a uncut gems. Like he doesn't want people to like get lost in it when he's trying to have a conversation.
Exactly.
And so he tosses him like it doesn't look it's a blade of some kind, but it looks more like an ice pick.
Yeah. He's like, I want you to take out your eye. And I mean, I've already mentioned this, but Aemond is mad. Like he is crazy. Like he is
less mad, more psychopath is the energy I'm getting.
Still crazy.
Yeah, arguable.
And I will give Borris this much. He's like, nope, no. Hey, cut that out.
Oh, yeah, I gotta do the Borris one.
Go out back. You're gonna go fight like the little boys over there. God damn it.
Yeah, it's probably not. I hope this isn't the last we see of good old Borris.
I have a feeling we were going to see more of Borris. But the storm is worse when Luke gets, because Luke is like, I'm not going to take my eye out.
Nah, bro.
He's like, no. And Vhagar is gone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And Jace, in a hurry, he gets on Arrax.
Yes.
Who, I don't know if we made note, but that's his dragon.
Yes.
Well, there'll be some discussion at the end of the episode.
Yes.
And he's booking it out of there, flying through the storm. And I alluded to it earlier, but the CGI looks immaculate in this context, where it's a little dark, a little shadowy, and very wet.
Yes. And you can just hear Vhagar. You don't even see Vhagar at first, but you just hear Vhagar. And then the shot when like Vhagar is flying above.
Yeah, you get the outline, like the silhouette of Vhagar against just the teeny tiny little shape of Arrax.
Yeah.
And we get our first dragon fight.
We get our first dragon fight.
And indeed, that's the notable first for this episode. I know you all have been waiting. It is our first on-screen dragon fight we're discussing.
Yes.
Very exciting.
And
hopefully the first of many.
again, reiterating that Aemond is mad. He's laughing like a madman the entire, and that's just adding to it for me. Like, he's just laughing as he's harassing Luke and Arrax. Like,
but that, to me, that's all it's meant to be,
Yes.
is harassment.
yes, there's not. It's not supposed to be more serious than that. Like, still terrifying.
Yeah.
Like,
and then,
well, we see how Arrax earns their stripes. They're a lot. It ends up being faster than Vhagar, is able to maneuver out.
well, it does the whole quick, like, there's the cavern, so he's using her size against her.
Yes.
And it goes through. Vhagar has to go over. It looks like maybe Luke gave him the slip until
Arrax gets Dracarys. No, Vhagar gets Dracarys a little.
yeah, but see, you say that, but that's like the first time you can say somebody or something got Dracarys, and it's more like a mosquito bite.
Yes. But even when Arrax is doing it, you can hear Luke scream, "No, Arrax, no." Like, this wasn't Luke's decision. This was the dragons. And again, something else is about to happen, but it just calls back to Viserys in episode 1 saying it's an illusion that we control these beasts.
Mm-hmm.
Because Luke clearly had no control. Arrax is an idiot. Like, what is Arrax thinking?
I
know! Like,
it's... yeah, like, what is that? That's like a little chipmunk going and like scratching on a T-Rex.
It's like if a squirrel tried to go. It's like if a squirrel tried to go ahead and bite Ramsay. Like, it's not going to go well for the squirrel.
Bryce's dog. I'd tell you the breed, but we don't know. He's bigger than a squirrel.
He's a little bigger than a squirrel.
But yeah, this leads to a moment where Arrax, Luke, flies above the storm. There's a moment of calm.
And it's honestly looks incredible.
Magnificent.
Like heavenly, you might say.
Because Vhagar.
The first time I saw this, I jumped so hard. I was like, "Oh,
holy shit!"
Because it's almost as if you're seeing it from Luke's perspective, where just Vhagar all of a sudden is just right there and chomp, and it literally was a chomp, spit out,
dragon. KO, death.
Yeah, and Aemond is over there like screaming, "No, no, no!"
Yeah, it's the same thing. Double instance of the dragons disobeying their riders.
Yeah, and the look of "oh shit."
Yeah, but whether or not he wanted it, I feel like this is Aemon's full like villain making moment.
Yes,
because he just actually started the war for real.
Yes.
You could make an argument that we're already there, but this is the point of no return.
Yes. And I'm curious to see how Aemond is going to go about this. Is he going to go about it and just own it and be like, this is who I am now. Like, I am the one who will, like, I killed my nephew. And or is he going to go about it with a lot of like not sympathy but like regret? I'm leaning more for the first one rather than the latter, but
maybe the first to mask the latter.
Probably.
We'll see. I'm really excited for Aemond in future episodes.
Yes, I am too. But the look of like sheer horror that was on his face though is. And again, I know they said it in the after the credit scenes, but this is like when his child innocence is officially dead. Like, there was very little to be with him to begin with, but he just killed.
Yeah, we're done, and that's where they leave it. They just right. Oh wait, no. Because
the Black Queen, Austin.
Yes. Wordless scene. But we go back to Dragonstone, back to the painted table, and we see Daemon presumably relay the news of Luke's death to Rhaenyra.
Not only was it wordless, but at first there was no sound. Like as Daemon was walking to Rhaenyra, like you couldn't hear like anything that was going around the table. And then the music just was picking up and getting like the music in this sequence was
oh, you have to bring it. And then they did. But you're closing out the first season.
Yes. And we see, like you said, Daemon presumably tell Rhaenyra, and you can see the pain that she's in from this.
Yeah, a really strong moment from Darcy.
Yes, and we see just the rage, the anger, where you're like, okay, Rhaenyra's taking the gloves off. She's going to war now. Like this is inevitable. Like it's not only just for the throne. This is vengeance for her now as well.
So that opens up the question of who bears the most responsibility for this conflict. Is it Viserys for goofing up on telling Alicent all of that and too much milk at the poppy? Is it Aemond for ending any opportunity at negotiation by murdering poor Luke? Or a host of other characters. Who really bears the greatest? Because it feels like there are, as we've discussed, a few off-ramps that could have been taken.
Here's the thing. I don't blame Viserys because this all would have happened even if Viserys didn't.
And he certainly tried his best.
He tried his best. And also, like, he was so drugged up. Like, we can't blame how drugged up he was. And Otto was going to fulfill this plan whether Alicent was on board with it or not. Like, that's...
Yeah, but then again, do you want to take it all the way back? Him naming Rhaenyra, maybe that's the real seed of the conflict.
Maybe. I think it really comes down to, like, there is no one person that...
And there's not.
We can blame it on Jaehaerys. He should have picked Rhaenys.
Yeah, he should have taken...
It's Aegon's fault for coming to the Seven Kingdoms. He should have just gone off and done whatever he wanted. But no, he wanted to come to Westeros. If somebody has to take a blunt of the brunt of, well, whoever, the person who bears the most responsibility for all of this happening, like, again, it's not going to be a surprise. It's not going to be really, it's Otto. Like, I knew it! It's Otto. Like,
I do think there's a legitimate argument to be made there. In fact, one that I feel like we've already discussed.
Like, I'm more than happy to spend it. I'm ready for this episode to go another hour long.
Listen, we got to talk about fit picks and then new dragons in this episode. But real quick, thoughts on the episode and the greater season.
Great episode, great season. I know we've already said it, but season one, and I know that you feel even more strongly than I feel about this, but first season of House of the Dragon, better than first season of a Game of Thrones.
You know what I said in our first episode.
I know.
And I also said that I would check back in on it. And I think I stand by it, to be honest. Now, I've never done a full deep dive podcast on any of the individual seasons in Game of Thrones. So maybe that's coloring my experience, but I've laid eyes on the entirety of Game of Thrones twice, and the same is now true for House of the Dragon. I think this is the best work they've put out there. I think the characters in this are so rich. I think that the budget is being put to good use, and on a technical level, this is a triumph beyond anything that we saw in the original series. And I'm more excited for this next season of House of the Dragon than I ever was for anything in Game of Thrones.
I think that's a fair. I'm not
holding it against anyone else. Like, if somebody wants to argue season 2, season 3 of Game of Thrones as the best World of Westeros content, there's an argument to be made there. And there are great characters in that show as well, especially early on, some bold decisions. But this is kind of my baby.
I do think performance-wise, the average is better. Like, for me personally, I feel like we saw a lot stronger performances of characters in A Game of Thrones, particularly like with Peter Dinklage in the first 5 seasons. But everybody is solid. Like, we've already said this, everybody is solid in this show. Like, I don't think there is a single person who's like a named character who's a weak link that we've experienced. Like, except the accent for Lady Massaria.
Yeah.
But even then, like, her performance is fine. It's just the accent.
More or less.
But I love it.
You know what it really comes down to?
What does it come down to?
You know what this show has that Game of Thrones did not?
More dragons.
9 dragons! 3 times as many dragons!
And significantly larger dragons, too.
With promise of more to come.
With more to come.
I'm surprised you're not with me on this.
I just have such a nostalgia for those, like, I'm there. I love it. I love it. It's gonna be great. Season 2. I do think season 2 has potentially to be the best thing that they've produced so far. I think there is, because the one thing that I think this season lacked, in my opinion, and I was going to say this, is we didn't get that many great battle scenes. Like, we got a dragon fight, we got some like sword fights, we got some tourneys, but we didn't get battles where there was even a small force fighting each other. And like
some good action.
In this
season for sure. The tournament at the beginning, even just like the sword, like mini sword fight in the episode 9, that was pretty stellar.
But I mean, we haven't seen a battle of the bastards. We haven't seen the blazing fields. We haven't seen the battle for the wall. Like, even the battle for the wall was like,
yeah, totally. And I'm sure that that's to come.
Oh, it is. And that's why
personally, I'm more about the characters. That's what I'm coming to any show for. But yeah. I am also very excited to see these people do the other thing that they're super well known for. I'm sure it's going to be stellar. Most looking forward to dragon on dragon violence.
Yes.
in this coming
we
season.
Do love our dragon on dragon violence. But speaking of characters that you like, what's your number 1 fit pick for the episode?
Right. Good episode for the fits. And I think that I'm just going to do my signature move and take the context into account and say that my fit pick for this episode is Rhaenyra once she's been crowned.
Yeah.
I think that the crown is a pretty good look for her.
Yes.
And it just so happened that the fit she was wearing to the funeral blended perfectly with that exact look. And the meaning of it, the greater scene around it, that has to be my pick.
Yes, I picked it as well, particularly when she's doing the War Council after being named, where it's the black collar, it's the red, just...
Well, she has another fit that's like really cool, and maybe it's the other because she has sort of a cloak on when she first gets crowned, but then there's another where she has like the tall, like velvety collar that you're talking about. Yeah. That's a great look too.
Like, that one was my number 1 pick.
Do you want to do your runner-up?
My runner-up, I almost picked Aemond's. I'm not going to lie. I was close to picking it. But Luke's embassy, like, pick just looked so good. Like, the red with the gold stitching, and it was just pure red. Like, the red cloak, the red shirt, like, it just looked good. A proper prince till the end.
Oh yeah, poor guy. And that's becoming a new tradition of ours as well, of giving the fit pick to characters that die in that episode.
But the thing is, like, normally I give it to them with the aspect of like, okay, this is like the last chance that they can win.
Yeah, but also I do think that they're like that's the reason that this episode starts on Luke, is because they want to give him the moment. So I'm sure that special attention was given. Like, all right, we need to give this character, this actor, a proper send-off.
We have to give him the red so they can't see him bleeding. What was your follow-up, runner-up?
There are a few ways you could take it. Like we've said, I'm gonna cheat and say my runner-up was Corlys. Looking real good after recovery.
Yep.
Honestly, a cane kind of suits him. We'll see if that sticks around. But my actual runner-up is going to all of the knights.
Yeah.
At the bridge encounter. Everybody, both sides, looking fantastic.
The Kingsguard armor just looks amazing.
Yeah, and it's on every level. Like I'm sure that the costuming is stellar. The performances, like the hair and makeup in support of it, really great. And then the lighting.
Just can't beat it.
On every level, they're succeeding. Unlike another show that has come up on this very episode, but you better not let me dig into that.
For sure. No, I mean, I'm doing a little bit of a curveball, but I said it when we first started the fit picks, but I think out of all of my favorite fits,
are we doing season fit pick?
I again, you threw the curveball at me initially.
Okay. I know who mine is. There's a top two, and it has to be one or the other in my mind.
I mean, mine hasn't changed. It's Corlys in his armor in episode 3 when he's like got his heavy plate armor, but the Velaryon sigil, like, and he's got the battle axe spear. He just looks amazing in that. Like, and I know that it doesn't have the most significance, but no one looks better in armor than Corlys does. And
yeah, it's fantastic. Jeez. That's a strong, though. That isn't one of my top two, though.
Fair.
And I've made mention of both of them already. Not in this episode, but in this series. Are we doing a runner-up? Well, after. So I'll do my main pick.
Let's hear the main pick.
Number one to me is Rhaenyra in her young Rhaenyra in her, like, not coronation, but when everybody comes to pledge themselves to her at the end of episode 1. It's the same outfit that was used in a lot of the promotional material.
Yes.
For good reason. It's the Targaryen colors. The drip is unbelievable.
The drippiest drip.
That's what it is. That's what it's got to be for me.
Yeah. You want to do your follow-up?
The follow-up has to be Alicent in the green dress, which was my very first fit pick.
Yes. And I didn't pick that one, but I have to say, just on further reflection and seeing it, like, and also just the significance of it, that has to be my runner-up as well. Like, it just looks too good. It has too much meaning, but Corlys in his armor is number
1. Well, if you're looking for more of this sort of like wrap-up reflection best of content, if we're ready to commit to this,
I'm ready if you're ready.
We will be doing sort of a best of wrap-up video.
Yes.
A piece of supplemental content from Big Flying Lizards that if everything goes well, it will be dropping at the same time as this episode, maybe a day late. But you can check us out on YouTube for that one.
Yeah.
Where we'll be going over favorite performances. I mean, maybe we'll reiterate some of the runner-ups on the further runner-ups on the fit picks.
For sure.
Yeah, other things to shout out, favorite dragon moments, all that good stuff.
Who has the most dragon energy?
Yeah. Well, yeah, as we said, maybe that's another one.
Speaking of dragons,
that's coming up.
Oh yeah, that's coming up.
Let's. You had a transition queued up there that I kind of stamped over. But speaking of dragons,
I think we did have 2 new dragons, but very much like Malaise when we first saw. We didn't really get a great shot of Vermithor.
I'm ready to talk about it briefly if you'd like, but we can save it.
I'm okay I'm fine for us to do just a brief description because we do get the sense that this is supposed to be their Vhagar. Like,
yeah. And also, if you recall back to our draft previously, this creature would be on my side of the draft. So if you were worried about my little baby dragons going up against Vhagar, we have a heavy, don't worry. This is the dragon that belonged to Jaehaerys.
Yes.
Or, well, belonged to. We don't own dragons. That's a maybe improper use of words.
It was ridden by Jaehaerys.
Interesting to know also that Silverwing, who is still alive, as indicated in this episode, was Vhagar's... No, not Vhagar. Was Vermithor's mate and ridden by Jaehaerys' queen.
Interesting.
So... that power couple, can you imagine?
There was a reason there was peace. He was known as the Wise and the Conciliator. Yeah. No one's messing with them.
Yeah, 2 of them? Jeez.
Oh my god.
I do hope we get to see Silverwing at some point.
We're gonna see all of them at some point. If we don't, we'll issue a protest.
Letter to the editor. Yeah.
And again, I know we can look it up, but since I really didn't get a good look on the coloring, I didn't really look up the coloring.
So in the scene, I was like, red. But I think that's more the firelight because Vermithor is known as the Bronze Fury. So surely...
so he's blue!
Yeah. Well, as we'll get into in Arrax, they're not necessarily following continuity in the show in that regard.
Yeah. For me, Vhagar looks old.
Ancient.
Old and ancient. This one looks more like angry. This looks like an old dragon who still has a lot of anger in them. Vhagar just looks tired. Vermithor looks deranged.
Yeah. Well, to me, you're kind of getting the intimidation of a Vhagar, but the sinister element of a Caraxes in this dragon.
So I assume that Vermithor had more of the wolf skull from the little that we got. I don't know.
It's reading like a T-Rex to me.
A T-Rex
more
to you?
So. The
two are so hard to tell, in my opinion.
It's not always clear cut.
The horse is the easiest to see.
Yeah. Good looking design. It's got kind of some like spines or like tusks growing out the side of its head that make it look wicked. Just rows of giant teeth.
Yeah.
Hideous.
Do we want to have the controversial conversation of Arrax?
Yeah. So the other dragon we're introduced to and say goodbye to in this episode. That's another notable first. First on-screen dragon death that we've covered.
Yes.
Arrax. What color is this thing supposed to be?
I thought it was like the lightest shade of blue. Like it obviously has this. It's very similar, in my opinion, to Sea Smoke, where but it's a lot lighter, like almost like a white blue. But when you look at the color online, it says that it's a white dragon.
So it's hard to tell in the episode. One, because Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon is a very serious, very somber affair, and so they often go for like the muted, desaturated look.
Yes.
Also, a lot of what we see of Arrax in this episode is in the downpour.
Yes.
So harder still to get a look at it there. I did some real thorough examination, and I feel like I'm with you, where it's like a very pale blue with reddish pink highlights.
Yes. And
it's a pretty looking dragon in the same way as Sea Smoke.
And also, for full transparency, like Austin and I very much try not to talk about the episodes until we come to the table and then put a camera on, just to really give you all the best content. But I did call Austin. It was just like, hey, like, just letting you know, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a blue with black stripes, white with gold stripes situation.
Yeah, because I could see them if they're like trying to say, oh yeah, it's a white dragon. But at the same time, to me, it really looked like it was this light blue.
See, here's the funny thing, though. I looked this up, that Arrax's color isn't stated in the text. So they can do whatever they want. But the artist commissioned for the 2021 A Song of Ice and Fire calendar,
Okay.
Sam Hogg, asked for clarification from George R.R. Martin, the man, the ultimate authority on this.
Yep.
And he was told, I don't know if this was like direct from Martin, but this is the line, that Arrax's coloration was pearlescent white with yellow flame, golden eyes, and a golden chest. Definitely not what we got in the show.
Nope.
So it's whatever you want it to be, whatever it looks like to you.
I feel like it's not Game of Thrones though.
No, it's the same thing as Targaryens having the purple eyes. The aesthetic that they've established in the live action adaptation doesn't make sense with that color. I still
wish that they did it though. I still wish they had the purple eyes.
Oh, I'm with you. Like I wish that this show was willing to get a little goofier. And we've commented on, like, there's not really like an overtly comedic character in this show, at least yet.
No.
And I feel like that's an addition I would like to see.
We need a Tyrion.
Yeah, or a Braum.
Yeah. We need a duo.
A Podrick would be nice. Or even, like, to me, like the whole like thunder and lightning is like Aemond like takes off his eye patch to reveal his crystal eye, like the like leaning in like silliness of that is awesome. Like I would love to see that more in this show about dragons. Like I get that we have to maintain a certain tone for like the drama to really hit.
For sure.
I'd like to see it. And thankfully, a lot of the content we're going to end up covering on this show is going to be more on the silly side. So looking forward to that. But I'm all for it. I all that's to say, I'm with you. Like, I wish that they would take more creative risks in that direction.
For sure. Great episode. Great season.
Yeah. Did you have any thoughts on, because we've done this with every dragon, the skull shape for Arrax?
I really think it's a wolf. Like I'm not as convinced for Vermithor that it's the wolf, but for Arrax, I'm pretty sure that it's the wolf.
To me, yeah. Now as I'm looking at it, kind of, it seems like it's another combo where I'm almost getting a little bit of the horse in it, where it does have a stouter face, but yeah, it's not necessarily clear cut either.
I think it's just because it's a little thicker. Even though it's a smaller dragon, I've noticed it was a little bit of a thicker dragon too. Maybe it just had more meat on its face.
Yeah. Also, I have to wonder, like, how old is Luke in this instance? It's just another, like, why is this dragon this size when Drogon was how big in Game of Thrones at relatively the same age?
Exactly. Well, they did say that Drogon grew exponentially fast. Like, Drogon was like significantly larger than its siblings in A Game of Thrones.
Cool. That's all I needed, honestly, because if they're going to get more big dragons in it, it does just feel more like, for the story, Drogon needed to be big and Arrax needed to be small so he could, so they could get chomped.
Yes. And I also do think A Game of Thrones does a really poor job. Well, I mean, it's hard because the seasons are so messed up in A Game of Thrones. You can't really tell how long. They do a really poor job of like showing how much time is passing, but it's technically years going on over there. But Austin, this is a significant episode because next time the viewer is going to be watching us, we're going to be doing the live reacts to season 2.
Right. Hey, everybody. Austin here. Listening back to the podcast, I realized this sounded like we were announcing some kind of live watch-along stream, which is not what we meant in the episode. What we're actually announcing is that we will be recording our initial reaction to each episode from season 2, and then likely posting clips from that, and maybe incorporating that footage into the main podcast in some capacity. We would like to arrange for some kind of live stream maybe later down the line, but we talked about it and decided that that's a little overly ambitious for just us two guys at this point in time. So maybe down the line. But for season 2, we will be recording our reactions. There'll be some more like proper in-the-moment reaction style content coming down the pipe. Quality on that to be determined, but our reactions will be recorded, so hopefully produce some content, some more supplemental content to go along there. So if you're interested in any of that, be sure to follow us on social media, watch out for the announcements, and we will provide further instruction, I'm sure, on our season 2 episode 1 episode.
Exactly. Do we have a prompt for them today?
Today? Well, one, I would like to know who stands with me on House of the Dragon Season 1 being the best season, better than any individual season of Game of Thrones. I would also like some, if anyone wants to weigh in on favorite dragons from the season, favorite episode. There's a lot to discuss.
There is a lot to discuss. So let's ask them. Let's say, hey, rank your top 3 favorite favorite seasons, including Game of Thrones and this first season of House of the Dragon. If you're not quite feeling that, who do you think takes the most blame for the Dance of the Dragon?
Yeah.
And what was the other one that you said?
I don't know.
Favorite dragon.
Also, what do you want to see in season 2?
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some thoughts thrown out on both sides of the table. What are you guys looking forward to? What are you hoping?
Who's the next big character to die?
Well, no spoilers, please.
If you know, you don't know. Those of you that are ignorant like us, tell us your best guess.
Anyway, I think this was our longest episode. We better wrap it up.
All right. Let Richard take it off.
yeah, Richard the Red, take us out. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for watching and or listening all the way through our coverage of House of the Dragon Season 1. We'll see you next week for Season 2.
Good night, y'all.
Thank you.
That's all for this week's Dragon Lore. Takes cold and hot, spread shore to shore. Enjoyed yourself? Please join the squad. Follow on social media at BigLizPod. And one quick reminder before you go, to rate, review, and share the show. Thank you for listening. It means a lot. See you next week, same time, same spot.